Hello and welcome to That Eurovision Site's YouTube channel. My name is Jazzy and I am here today with Angus to talk about Albania's Eurovision 2023 selection, as well as Festivali I Këngës as a whole. Festivali I Këngës took place at the end of December. Again, Albania used a public vote separate from the festival itself to decide who would go to Eurovision for them. Wambal Rexari won the festival with his song Shimada. It was ultimately Besa who won the vote to go to Eurovision with her song Zeren Ndori. I guess we should start off by discussing what we think of this choice for Eurovision.
I mean, it's an Albanian ballad. I'll give it that. Besa is a strong performer, and also like I don't know how much she was involved in the styling that she had on the nights, but she made very strong visual choices for her outfits. So that's also always cool to see. It wasn't my favorite song. It left me a little bit underwhelmed, I must admit. But it is in line with what you would expect of an Albanian entry, so that's decent. The choice that she's said now that she is probably translating it does worry me, but that, it's Albania. We always get like a slightly strange revamp choice. So we can only just wait and find out how it turns out.
I think this is a decent choice for Eurovision for what we had in the selection. I feel this is Albania sticking to what they know and what has done decently for them in the past. It's a strong vocalist with strong stage presence that will likely attract love from both international viewers and televoters, obviously. However, I do have concerns that Zemri and Dora is possibly not as memorable as Albanian tracks in the past. However, we know from Besa herself that the song is being revamped, so that could very well change. I still think it's in good stead to qualify. However, it is really hard to judge right now because at the time of recording, we only have 4 songs selected for 2024 contest in Malmo. So it's really hard to make any predictions of how well this will do at present. I feel like we should move on to the other songs in the festival. Were there any other songs that we enjoyed?
I mean, I would say it wasn't the strongest fake lineup we've had, but there was still like a good chunk of songs I enjoyed. But I mean, I'm also an Albanian ballad enjoyer, so that everything that was fairly like middle of the pack still appealed to me. But even beyond that, what really stood out to me, my favorite was in the end, my favorite was by Shpat Deda, the song I'm not even daring to pronounce Smun Tvitoi Patu, I believe it said. Just this lovely, soft, gentle, like this gentle heartbreak of a guitar ballad. Um, a lot of people love Luan Durmishi's Perseritja for good reason. It was a strong choice, strong vocally, strong, like very memorable. Yasmina Hako with T was also just a very solid, very good entry that just knew what it was doing and did it very well. So those are some of the songs that stood out to me. We had like 2 rock songs in the selection, which I also quite liked. They weren't anything too special, but I think they were solid, and both artists showed on the cover slash nostalgia night that they are very capable, and I'm looking forward to maybe seeing them return in future contests.
I really enjoyed a few songs in this selection. I love Yasmina Hako's Tea, although it didn't qualify for the final on the Friday, which I was a little surprised about. I thought it was a really fun pop song that had like that modern jazz twist to it, and I thought that would have been something that we haven't really seen in Eurovision in a while. We don't see a whole lot of jazz music in Eurovision, and it had that little jazzy twist to it, which I really liked, but it's still like a pop girly song. So I like that. I also really enjoyed RC Bako's Zehu. I thought it was a powerful rock song that stood out among a lot of rock songs in this year's edition for me. I think again it would have been a good choice for Eurovision. A female-led rock song is just not something that we see too much in Eurovision these days. I guess that this year we do have Aiko from Czechia, so it's something that we're seeing a little bit more, but we still don't see it all that often. And yeah, it was just I thought it was a really solid set of songs, and I was really shocked when Mal won the whole festival in a way because I don't know. I don't know if it was the strongest song in the whole festival. I don't know if it was sung the best or if it was performed the best. But because usually for Festivali I Këngës, one of the things that they really, really go off is vocal performance. And I don't know. I was just really surprised he won. Also, really surprised he won because he was a newcomer, and newcomers in like Festivali I Këngës, San Remo, they kind of need to earn their keep. Like that, you don't win on the first try, but he managed it, so I guess that's a good thing. So it shows that it can be done. It shows that newcomers can win these festivals. I guess Mahmood won San Remo on his first try in 2019, but I think he had been through San Remo Giovanni previously. I can't remember. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think he had. So like it can be done, but it's something we rarely see. So it was nice to see, even if the song just wasn't. It wasn't really the song. I quite liked the song. It was just the performance wasn't really for me. But at least at least it was something different. Because again, it was something different to win the contest as well. Because it was like more of an up tempo-y rock song, and that's something that we just don't see winning Festivali I Këngës. Like men don't win Festivali I Këngës. It's like the anti San Remo in that sense. Like in San Remo, women just don't do well. In Festivali I Këngës, the men don't do well. So it was a surprise to see a male winner. But yeah, I also really like Elsa Lilia's Mars. Obviously that was a big fan favorite. A lot of people want to see that go to Eurovision over Besa, but I actually kind of think Bessa might be the more commercial choice out of the two, but I preferred Elsa Lilia's song Mars this year to her song last year, Vita. Obviously, the Festivali Congress judges did not agree because I don't think it even placed in the top three, which I think was a huge surprise. I mean, like, cause I think a lot of people just assumed she would win the festival again. And obviously, her big thing was not winning the festival, it was going to Eurovision. I don't know where she placed in the Eurovision vote. I don't know if they ever publicised the Eurovision vote, but yeah, kind of sad that she didn't get to go to Eurovision because that was one of like her reasons for doing Festivali Congress again. Anyway, looking towards Eurovision, what would we want to see from Bessa's revamp?
Well, regular listeners, especially with the podcast, will expect my answer, at least in part, which is yes, we need a revamp because obviously we're going from orchestra performance to a pre-recorded music performance. But try to make the pre-recorded music sound as if it's the orchestra. So just make the orchestra play it again. You know, however you revamp it, just make the orchestra play it in orchestra environment. Record that. That makes the song sound so much bigger live, and makes it sound when it's at Eurovision. It will make it sound as if there's an orchestra, and people will hear that, and I think gravitate towards that, and the juries as well. I hope. I mean, I'm hoping against hope that we'll keep it Albanian. Beyond that, if Besa continues with her striking outfit choices, I mean, I cannot describe her look on the other night differently than nipple piercing torso shield, but I mean that was a great visual choice and it really stood out. It just stuff like that. If she keeps doing that, I think she will do pretty well at Eurovision. I don't think it will be set any new records for Albania, but another appearance in the final and a solid finish should definitely be in the cards.
I feel I almost want the song to feel a little more dynamic than it already does, but I feel that is something that Albania have really improved on with their revamps over the years, that their revamps do sound more dynamic than the Festivali Congress versions. And I feel like last year they got their revamp absolutely right, where it did very much sound like the Festivali Congress version, with like you could hear the like the orchestra instruments in the in the instrumental. And last year's revamp really worked. So I feel like they should just stick with what isn't broken. And yeah, the last few years, I have noticed that the entry has stayed in Albania more often, and I definitely think that is a route they should stay with. I just think they have no luck with songs when they translate them into English. They don't qualify when they translate their song to English. I think one of the only times that they have in recent years was the last time was 2015, and they changed the song completely. So I don't know if that really counts because they never sent the Festivali I Këngës winner in the first place. Um, and these these ballads that they send, they lose their like uniqueness if they get translated into English. Like they just become the run of the mill ballad, like especially like say 2020 or 2016. Like those songs were quite unique and they were quite ethnic and like they were true to like Albania, and then they were translated into English and they just became like this run of the mill boring ballad that was never going to stand any chance of qualifying. So, and obviously Bessa's been like saying stuff like potentially translating it into English, potentially translating it to an international audience. I know she did a poll on her Instagram, and her followers actually said they do want it to be more catered to the international audience, which is obviously a little bit of a worry because it's like, oh, is she going to translate her song into English? Because Albania doesn't have much luck with that when they do that, and yeah, and obviously I want them to keep qualifying. I want them to keep doing well because I like what Albania send to the contest when they are true to themselves. I don't like what they send to the contest when it's more manufactured, and I just really hope she doesn't go down that route. Anyway, do we have any other thoughts on Festivali Congress that we want to just share and put out there?
I think the format, or at least how it's been explained, is still wild. Because at least the way it's been explained, and no one's been able to like 100% confirm or deny this is the actual case, but the format still is like that the jury vote, so whoever wins Festivali Këngës, and the televote, so whoever goes to Eurovision, are completely separate, which is just none of that makes sense. And at that point, you might want to consider making, if you want to keep Festivali Këngës, maybe you want to make a separate Eurovision night where the Eurovision songs are presented, or something along those lines, because this is such a strange way of doing it. It might be a functional way. It's a fairly new system. Like it's been last year and this year. If it works for Albania, power to them. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's me. Beyond that, I mean, um, I like the variety of music that we have. I like that we have a lot of like different types of rock in it, especially. Like I said, we only had two proper rock entries, quote unquote. But there's a lot of like rock ballads and other stuff that's at least rock adjacent, which I really appreciate because so few countries do that. The presentation coming up, we did not need a comedian this year. Honestly, it felt as if the producers knew we didn't need a comedian this year because especially on the first time where he showed up basically an hour late, it felt like it was such a strange way of introducing him to the audience. But you know, yeah, I do think that the Albanians, like RTSH and everything, they know what they're doing, and I hope that they just continue doing that and bring some local style to Eurovision every year.
I There's a couple of things for me. First of all, I do agree that having the votes separate, I don't really know whether it does work or it doesn't work. And obviously last year it worked and they did fairly well. Um, I think the only issue was that they didn't do very well with the juries in Eurovision last year, although I think that is completely undeserved. I felt that the juries actually really robbed them and they didn't. I think they should have, yeah, I think they should have done better with the juries than they did, but obviously they didn't do as well with the juries as they usually do in Eurovision. So I don't think that'll be the case this year. I think Bessa's such a strong vocalist. I think this is absolutely going to be more of a jury favourite than it will be a televote favourite. So yeah, I feel like I'm holding out with the format. It's something that I've maybe suggested Sanremo doing. Maybe they don't do it, because often what wins Sanremo I don't think is the best choice for Eurovision, but usually the winner chooses to go to Eurovision, so it doesn't really matter. But I think something else that I would like to see is something that Sanremo do. I just want to see everyone in the final. Like, we don't need to eliminate songs. Like, we saw the big fan favourite Luan literally get eliminated in his semi just due to being a newcomer. Like, we don't need to eliminate these newcomers. Like, they often send good songs, and it's quite often the public don't get to say what's in the final because obviously it's a completely different vote. And yeah, I just don't think we should eliminate anyone. Yes, we would have a 28 song final. You could have less interval acts. You could have less comedians, less unfunny comedians. Yeah. I think everyone should be in the final. Sanremo do it, and they have 28 songs, so I don't see why Festivali I Këngës literally wants to be Sanremo. Like, we hear RTSHS's producers say this every year. They want to be more like Sanremo. They want to be less like Eurovision, more like Sanremo. Just have everyone in the final. Sanremo doesn't eliminate anyone. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this Festivali I Këngës recap. If you enjoyed this recap, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be notified whenever we have a new recap, a reaction, or interview. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at That Eurosite on Twitter, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Tumblr, and Instagram. Also, be sure to check out That Eurovision podcast on all streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that's left for me to say now is bye.
Bye.